biscuit riff. Just nice. For the cracker things, you know what I mean? But we're not sure how it ends.
I'm restringing. We're in Karlsruhe. I think I said that right. And everyone's set up. And I thought this is a good opportunity to talk about the strings I use whilst restringing my guitars. I'm sure you're all aware that I proudly endorse D'Addario strings, and I've been using NYXL for the last couple of years, well, since they came out actually. So I'm going to restring this guitar. This is a prototype 1 of my Chapman ML3, and I use a straight up pack of 11 to 56 NYXLs, and I tune it to drop C sharp. Something that I've actually added to this guitar that's really cool are these speedy loader saddles, which you're not going to be able to see from there, but I'll put a close-up where you just load the saddle in from the back, which is where you'd normally use an Allen key to tighten the block inside a Floyd Rose saddle. But I sacked that off. Let me just quickly demonstrate how cool this is. So, of course, I've taken the top string off, and then you literally push it out the back, and out it comes. See? No more clipping of strings and clamping them in and crushing Floyd blocks. So I found these on eBay. If anybody wants them, you just search speedy loaders on eBay and you'll probably be able to find a pack. They're about 25 quid. The reason I like using D'Addario strings, or at least NYXL strings, is purely because I find them to break in really fast. They're not hard to, they don't go out of tune very much. And generally, they're pretty strong. I don't really snap them very much. I was never really a fan of any particular string brand until I started with the D'Addario about 5 years ago. I just tried whatever I felt like trying. So of course I used Dean Markley's for a bit, I used Ernie Ball for a bit. D'Addario were awesome and they welcomed me to their family with open arms, and so it's pretty damn cool to be a part of the team. This is a cool little device. It's basically a plastic handle that stretches your strings. It's called a string stretcher, and I got this off Andrew from Arcane Roots, so thank you very much. Also, when I'm restringing, rather than plugging into a tuner and then finding somewhere to plug it in, I literally use one of the little MS micro tuners on the headstock, and it's just, for the sake of easily tuning my guitar whilst restringing it, it's just there on the headstock's great. In case anyone's wondering who I'm talking to Dave. Say hi, Dave.
Dave.
So in case any of you guys are curious if there's any specific technique or any kind of method I use to restring my guitars, really there isn't. I just like to have maximum of two winds of string when I restring my guitar. Mainly because I think it's more sturdy. I don't know, that's just something I've always gotten used to. It's really not a specific thing. So people ask, oh, do you use anything specific? Do you do anything specific when you're restringing your guitars? To be honest, no. With the Floyd Rose, of course, it can be a bit of a pain, but if you know what you're doing and you've got your string tension set, it's literally a case of balancing out the spring tension on the back using the claw and a screwdriver, and then obviously tuning it up on the front. So it takes a bit of time and you get faster at it the more you do it, but it's pretty easy, pretty straightforward. I've also been asked quite a lot recently, am I moving to Ernie Ball? Because Rob and Dave have moved over to Ernie Ball. To tell you the truth, no, I'm not anytime soon, just because I'm really happy with my relationship with D'Addario, so there's really no need for me to move on anytime soon. If anything changes, I guess I'd let you know, but I don't see it happening. I also like to use these Planet Waves string winders only because they're really convenient, because they've got a little string clipper on the end, which is great for getting rid of the ends. You don't have to carry around an extra pair of clippers. Sound check is about to happen, so it's going to get really loud in a minute, so I probably won't be able to talk, but I just thought I'd do a quick video to talk about why I use D'Addario, what gauges I use. As I said, I'm using 11 to 56 NYXL on a drop C sharp guitar, and I use 11 to 60 on a drop C guitar.
And also it's fine to use whatever kind of strings you like. Doesn't have to be D'Addario or any Ball or any, it could be anything you want.
Exactly, which is the ethos me and Rob have kind of taken
Peace
from
and
day
love
one.
to everybody's own personal choice.
What Rob said. Whenever I put a new string on the guitar as well, I'll tune it up, get it to pitch, and then I'll stretch it down loads, and then tune it up again, stretch it down loads, tune it up again, and then when all the strings are on, I'll do a final stretch over, quick play in, just to check everything's cool and it's not going out of tune too much. Obviously using a Floyd Rose, I've got a locking nut, so it tends to be pretty stable, but at the same time, you know, when they're new strings, they will go out of tune a little bit. So the key is just to make sure that you stretch in your strings enough, especially if you're restringing before a gig. That's something else to point out, is that people go, oh, you shouldn't restring straight before a gig. Well, I do most of the time and I never have tuning problems. So to be perfectly honest, that's just down to how much you stretch and play in your strings before you use them. So one thing I do like about stringing a Floyd Rose up is that if you use the same gauge the next time you restring it, it should stay pretty level. The Floyd shouldn't dip or anything. It should just be as if you'd never changed them, which is kind of cool because it makes the job way quicker. It's also worth saying that if you do want to gig a Floyd Rose guitar, absolutely bring a backup. I once played a gig and I thought, I'm not going to snap a string. It was a Floyd Rose guitar. I snapped a string. I had no backup. My dad was in the audience. He came up to me after the gig and he was like, what the hell are you doing? Why didn't you bring a backup? Are you a professional or what? And he roasted me. In a good way, of course, you know, as a dad should. But at the end of the day, I learnt a lesson. Something else worth doing is every time you put a new string on, go back and make sure the other strings are in tune so that you're not having to do it at the end, because of course, those of you that do use a Floyd Rose will know that as you start tuning up the different strings, tensions get moved, then the other strings go out of tune, and it's a balancing act for hours and hours and hours. So it's worth making the effort at the beginning so that actually getting it bang in tune isn't going to be too hard afterwards. But as I said before, these NYXLs are pretty quick to break in, so it doesn't take too long. I also get asked quite a lot, how many gigs do you play before you restring your guitar? It really depends, but for the most part I try to do 2 to 3 gigs. By the third gig I might just hit the strings a little less brutally. I like to play pretty hard live, so you know, if I feel like they're still good, then I'll use them, but I'll just be mindful that I shouldn't really whack the strings like crazy. Doesn't affect the performance or anything, it's just, you know, you don't want to push your luck. Right, that's all my strings changed. Now I'm just going to stretch them in one more time. You may find that when you stretch your strings in, like what just happened there, the string slipped in the tuner, which means that there was a loose wind in there somewhere, which isn't conducive to a guitar staying in tune. One other thing to point out is to make sure that you reset your fine tuners so that when you put the locking nut on, it will go out of tune a little bit. That's where you use the fine tuners to make sure you're perfectly in. So make sure they're not too low or too high, otherwise you won't have the range that you might need to get everything perfectly in tune. But yeah, this is stretched in, tuned up. I'm going to bang the locking nuts back on, clip the strings off, and then this is good to go. And of course, I'd do the exact same thing to this bad boy, but with 11 to 60. So I use a normal pack of 11s, and then I just add a single NYXL 60 on the top, and that's the only difference between drop C and drop C sharp. Because I do a lot more lead on the drop C sharp, which is slightly tighter tension, which is what I want, whereas on the drop C it's mainly riffs. And you want to make sure as well that the ends of the strings don't stick out in case you catch your finger, stab yourself in the hand, and then end up with a bloody hand like I've done millions of times before. It's very painful. I once had a string go through this part of my hand before, and it was agonizing, so I don't recommend it. Of course, once I get on stage, I'll use my actual tuner, but the good thing about the NS headstock tuner is it's so little, it's good just for quick reference when you're in the middle of a gig or anything like that, so can't recommend them enough. They're very handy. Cool, all strung up, feels great, it's ready to go, gig worthy, awesome. So there you go, hopefully that was useful for you guys, or anyone that was interested at least, because I did get asked about this video, so I thought I'd shoot it whilst on tour. Yeah, thank you for watching, please like, subscribe and share, and if you've got any questions about string gauges or anything like that, put it in the comment section below and I'll do my best to get back to you. So take it easy guys.